Welcome back, traders, to a new session of charting across the board. Today on the Power Hour, just before traders wrap their activities for the session, unless carrying those positions overnight, being exposed to any potential news-driven catalysts, such as the one that we observe today. However, was this actually an effect after the decision based on the Supreme Court today, or something that the market or the data was already presented in the chart? Let's dive in. Everyone, welcome aboard. This is Marop 6. Today we're going to be navigating briefly the price action on Bitcoin as well as the S&P 500, just as we're approaching the weekly session close across the equities market. Of course, crypto trades 24/7. Soon enough, the equities market will also have that, I wouldn't say privilege, but the opportunity for traders to trade over the weekend. Anyways, today we observe a major volatility across the market, mainly starting here on the S&P 500. There was some support here within the 68.44 region. It's a trading range between 7,000 being the main resistance, 6,800 being the local support between this level of the move. Okay, 68.44 pretty much was defended twice yesterday and today, creating here what is known as a double bottom here within the short-term trend. Okay, there are other variables in the macro rating, such as the daily, the weekly. However, we're going to be looking at the hourly time frame. Why? I believe the current market information require traders or require us to look at every single move, at least starting on the hourly time frame before this can translate into the 4-hour or the daily. On the hourly time frame here, you guys can observe that there is a pending W formation corresponding to a bearish Gartley pattern on the hourly once again, with a completion point into the 69.63. Okay, that is a level for a potential completion point of this pending W formation. I call pending. Why? Because the pattern is not completed yet. Therefore, the data points remain as a pending level of completion. Okay, 69.63 will be the PRC, the potential reversal zone of the structure, overspill to 69.74 potentially if, once again, we complete these levels. I would like to highlight here that the index, the S&P, managed to hold here twice. Okay, you can observe also here there is an information that acted as another confluence for what is known as type 1, then a type 2 return that came coincidentally with the news at 10 a.m. this morning here on Eastern time. However, this is an analysis I've been looking since yesterday for a potential outcome that may develop into next week into this PRC. What occurs there will be subject to new information. Of course, if we reject at those levels, there can be a lower risk area here. Of course, none of these represent any financial advice, just a reminder. If you're trying to mitigate or trying to simulate these analysis or incorporate this analysis into your trading, make sure to consult with a professional financial advisor. Okay, this is only for educational purposes only. Okay, so therefore, this is a proposition I'm looking in the background. You guys know I'm constantly tracking new developments before executing position. Of course, along the way, I also take some trades here and there, only for minor time frames. However, ideally, the swing trading or position trading is where I'm looking here, based on the hourly, the 4-hour, and ultimately the daily that carries a position at least for 1 week or 2 weeks. Okay, depending on the formation. I mentioned before that this is a pending analysis. A previous technical proposition I'm looking here. The analysis come first, okay? where I was looking for a potential support within the same region as 68.54, 68.44, potentially heading into this CD projection, okay? Where the information, this pending information, could lead to this CD projection. Only an idea as of now, given that we have the first reactive move of this information now potentially leading into this pending PRC into next week. That will be for January 23rd, which coincidentally there is an intersection between price and time, given the time axis based on Fibonacci time analysis. Okay, there is an intersection expected for Monday. Okay, therefore we'll see if we complete this formation on the S&P 500. On the daily time frame, there was previously what is known as a Browning wedge that resembles the megaphone. There was indeed a rejection of the previous upper boundary of this pattern. I hope there is no delay in the background. Okay. This is a pattern I was mentioning in the room before, that previously we have the connecting points in the upper boundary, okay, as well as the lower trend line here, where the majority of connecting points occur, that defines a trend line. Very simple, okay? So here, clearly, we can observe that on the daily time frame, we have what it was previously presented on Beacon also as a descending Browning top in this case, okay? However, once there's new information ranging in between, we can observe also that that can be the precursor of what is known as a diamond pattern. Richard Schumacher, the author, the author for the technical analysis book, suggests that these formations oftentimes present themselves at market tops. Okay. However, if we go based on Bukowski, we do understand that these formations are neutral patterns, meaning that they can break on either direction. Okay, having the measured move of the center of the wedge. Okay, either towards the upside if we break higher. Okay, or towards the downside if we break lower. It will depend on the new information giving the new data sets in the price action. If prices break higher, there's an argument for, of course, another major W formation. Okay, that will be pretty much a deep crab pattern into the 1.618, pretty much new all-time high at 7,200. Of course, we mentioned that the next level will be the 1.90, okay, from the previous reading, if we manage to go higher. But we're not there yet. Therefore, we need to monitor these levels cautiously, levels by levels. Once again, starting on the hourly with the pending bearish Gartley within the same range here at 69.63. Also, coincidentally, within the upper boundary of this now a diamond pattern, if that were to be the case. Okay, this is what I have on the S&P 500. Trading very cautiously, starting on the hourly time frame. Once again, once we reach these levels, we'll reassess what occurred at these levels. If we break higher, we know that there might be another argument for the deep crab on the 12 or the daily time frame, the 4-hour likely, if that is the case. Okay, so far, or as of now, let's monitor what occurred at these levels. Once we reach these levels, we'll of course present our arguments for a setup. Now, moving into Bitcoin, you guys know, or those of you who are new in the space in our channel, there was pretty much an explosive move after we presented our technical proposition since last July. We reached these levels for a major cipher pattern, testing the lows of the 0.786, where prices are now hovering between these deepest levels of retracement. From the lows to the highs, that was a projection made in July last year. Now that we're here, you guys can observe across the space that lower levels are being presented. Can always be the case, but you guys know that we move levels by levels. There were also other variables we presented before, such as the Wyckoff schematic. on the previous range for the 80,000 region. There was a range. We're looking for long shorts in between. Ultimately, the spring action that was rich. As of now, we are within this range now. Could the next leg of the move be a retest of this upper boundary or lower boundary for the previous trading range around 80,000 or 75,000? We have some readings at those levels, such as the hourly time frame. Okay, moving back into the hourly time frame, we have an information that has been respected as of now. Okay, there was clearly a reactive move, action, reaction rule. Here we have a completion point of an information, a 65,000 region. We mentioned yesterday in a room that this is a key level here to monitor. Why? Because there can be an argument for both arguments or both technical proposition. If we break the 65,000 region, we have an information. Okay. Only if we break below, we have then a pending information into the 62 or 61,000 if that is the case. However, I'm leaning more into the upward move as long as, once again, we keep managing to hold this level as support. Why? In the same approach, if we break higher at the previous high at 72,000, we then can connect those harmonic levels from these highs to the lows, back to the highs, giving a reading at the 0.61A, this now being the C leg of the move, now potentially at the 0.886. Why I'm leaning towards this approach is mainly if we continue to hold the 0.886, which is this zone right here. If I zoom into the daily time frame, okay, you guys can observe that this level of the move, this one right here, the 0.886, was the previous 0.886 here on the weekly time frame. Therefore, we are hovering at a weekly session, also on the RSI presenting undervalue conditions after a 52% decline. Therefore, I'm not leaning into a short, at least for now, after such a major downward traction. Okay, of course, we can always go lower. I mentioned that before many times. However, after a major decline, also worth monitoring here that the RSI is presenting undervalue conditioned. It doesn't equal or translate that it will be the same low as the previous low. However, we can have a similar approach that if we print another reflexive rally, then a new low, that will give us another divergence in a similar manner that these lows were presented then in 2022, early 2023, okay, before the major bull run, okay? You guys can observe in the space, people or the sentiment goes all the way into the hype at the highs, then of course extreme fear at the lows, and so on. A repeated action that occurs often. However, moving into the hourly time frame, I believe I'm running out of air. This is the main point to monitor, okay? Something to finalize the stream is that the next leg of the move, assuming the bad pattern, the information remains as support, will act as confluence with the pending Gartley as well as another pending butterfly, okay? The pending butterfly, for those harmonic patterns or harmonic pattern traders, can already compute the connecting points from the congregation of ratios, from the previous high to the lows, back to the highs, as long as we remain as support here at 65,000 without breaching below, then there can be an argument for a C to the D into the 1 to 72 right here at 74,000, first range, and the 1.41 into the 75,000 region, coming in confluence with a pending, once again, W formation where we have the congregation of ratios at these levels, okay? That would be an ideal scenario. It doesn't always play in the same manner that we expect. However, we adjust as the market is always constantly changing in a very dynamic manner. Okay, so this is what I have on Bitcoin. Once again, keep in mind the readings here at these levels remain here also with the same reading for the Wyckoff schematic. Doesn't mean this will be the ultimate bottom. That's not necessarily what I'm looking here yet, but I'm gathering new data points in the price action to monitor if we indeed can retest at least the previous high or the previous lows, in this case at 80,000, that acted previously as support, now either to be regarded as resistance. If we recapture, that will be key for the next upward direction. And if that's the case, my friend, then I will be leaning into the next information that I already drew before. But I would like to present these patterns in a very unbiasedly manner, okay? Everyone, thank you for tuning in. I wish you to have a great weekend with family and friends. Remember to take a break from the chart. There is nothing much to be done here other than monitoring with some alert rather than being glued to the screens, okay? This is what I have for BTC and the S&P 500. I hope you enjoyed this stream, and I'll see you into the next week. And remember to live a life with an attitude of gratitude. Cheers.